Okay.
Say a few words. Just say hello.
Hello. Yeah, yeah, it works. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you all for joining us for an exciting announcement concerning the CHIPS for America program. I am Willie E. May, Vice President for Research and Economic Development here at Morgan State University. But during the Obama administration, was the Undersecretary for Commerce for Standards and Technology and the Director for NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology. So I am truly delighted this morning to introduce the person who now fills that role, the Honorable Dr. Lori E. Locascio. I actually led the division that Dr. Locascio joined when she arrived at NIST at the start of her career. From the very beginning, it was obvious that she was a great fit for our organization. She had all the makings to become a great scientist. But over the years, NBS first, then later NIST, has had a number of great scientists, including but not limited to the full Nobel Prize winners that we've had, and I'll always say we, over the past 25 years, 26 years, as a matter of fact. And we've had numerous members of the national academies and so forth. But what set her apart was that very early on, Dr. Locascio showed that she had the potential to also be a great leader of our technical programs. During her career, she published more than 100 peer-reviewed scientific articles published in the top journals in the world. She was awarded 12 patents and received, now, the patents is unique because during my time at NIST and when I arrived, nobody wanted patents. We wanted to go try and talk about what we're doing, and you have to be somewhat reserved. Lori was one of the first scientists of the new generation that really focused on patents, and she got 12 of them. I think the second most in the history of the organization, to my memory. But she got so many other honors and accolades, including, but not limited to, being an elected member of both the National Academy of Engineering and the National Academy of Inventors. She ascended through many layers of our organization to become the Associate Director for Laboratory Programs. It means that she ran the place on a day-to-day basis. Then in 2017, Dr. Locascio left NIST to serve as the Vice President for Research at the University of Maryland, College Park. 4 years later, she was nominated by President Biden and confirmed in 2022 to return to NIST as its 17th director and the Undersecretary of Commerce for Standards and Technology. Now, NIST addresses a wide array of technical challenges to help U.S. industry be more competitive and improve the quality of our lives, spanning a range from physical materials to digital twins to AI and machine learning and quantum science. So if it's science, they do it. We used to do it. And on scales ranging from atoms to our planet's atmosphere and beyond. The NIST that I worked at for 45 years was a very exciting but very complex organization to lead. Then, on top of that, shortly after Dr. Locascio arrived, Congress increased that tasking to include the implementation of the $50 billion CHIPS and Science Act. Needless to say, this is the biggest challenge in NIST's almost 120-year history. But I am absolutely certain that both CHIPS and NIST will be just fine because they have a very exceptional leader at its helm. So please join me this morning in welcoming the Honorable Dr. Lori E. Locascio to Morgan State University for an exciting announcement regarding the CHIPS for America program. Thank you.
What a wonderful introduction. And, thank you, Dr. May. I just have the best memories, honestly, of working with you at NIST and being mentored by you. You've been one of the most important mentors my entire life, and it's always wonderful to see you. So I want to thank President Wilson and Vice President May and Morgan State for hosting this event, and to all of you for coming here to join us for this discussion about Chips for America and for these announcements. So I want to start by congratulating Morgan State on the recent $3 million per year funding from the state of Maryland that allows for expansion of your Center of Research and Education in microelectronics. And I just want a little round of applause there. To meet the demand for skilled talent that Chips for America will create, the Secretary of Commerce has called for colleges and universities to triple the number of graduates in semiconductor-related fields, including engineering, over the next decade. And it's really great to see Morgan State positioning to be a leader in that effort. I'm so glad that NIST and Morgan State are building stronger STEM workforce connections through the NIST Professional Research Experience Program, or PrEP. PrEP allows us to provide paid laboratory experience to students ranging from community college to postgraduate to postdoctoral fellows, as well as faculty members. And about 40 Morgan State students have participated in PrEP since 2019. Through this program, students get hands-on experience at NIST, one of the country's premier technical agencies. This gives students a competitive edge when applying for further education or jobs, and NIST is delighted to provide that experience. In turn, PrEP participants strengthen our agency with their infusion of new ideas and experiences. The values of opportunity and inclusion are at the heart of the PrEP program, and they are also central to the Chips for America program. Now, in August 2022, the Chips and Science Act was passed with strong bipartisan support to bring semiconductor manufacturing back to America and established a robust research and development ecosystem to support chip makers. Now, semiconductors are the brains of the devices we rely on for entertainment, transportation, medical care, critical infrastructure like power and water, and national defense. As important as semiconductors are to the American quality of life, only about 10% of semiconductors are made here, and none of the most advanced chips are made here at commercial scale. Many elements of the semiconductor supply chain are also offshore and out of our control. Now, these conditions create serious risk to our economic and our national security, and that is why Congress appropriated $50 billion to the Chips for America programs administered by NIST and the Department of Commerce. The Chips for America programs are broad and serve nearly the entire supply chain and product cycle. We envision that CHIPS incentives for manufacturers will lead to increased production of current generation and mature node chips used in transportation and defense and other critical sectors. We also want U.S. fabs producing leading-edge memory chips at high volume, with domestic research and development enterprise to support new memory chips for supercomputing and other uses. And we want CHIPS funding to establish at least 2 new large-scale clusters of fabrication facilities that for leading-edge logic chips that drive advances in fields like AI, biotech, quantum computing, as was just mentioned, the Internet of Things, next-generation 6G communications, and renewable energy. Now, these technologies have incredible potential to address infectious diseases, food insecurity, climate change, and so many other threats to us and to our planet. Increasingly, the value of semiconductor electronics comes not from chips alone, but also from how the chip is connected to other chips. The ability to combine a variety of chips from diverse sources to build a subsystem that has enhanced functionality and performance at lower cost is what we call advanced packaging. Now, this approach is integral to the aims of the Chips for America Act and the production of many microelectronics products. Because of the role that advanced packaging will play in assembling chips for the most important applications with growing demand, we must have capability to package those chips here. Fabricating chips in America, but then shipping them overseas to be packaged creates supply chain and national security risks that we just can't accept. And that's why we envision that by the end of the decade, the United States will be home to multiple high-volume advanced packaging facilities and a global leader in commercial-scale advanced packaging for the most sophisticated chips. Now, we have a strategic opportunity in advanced packaging. The most sophisticated methods for advanced packaging are still in their infancy here and around the world. Today, most advanced packaging takes place in Asia by some of the largest global semiconductor manufacturers. In fact, as of 2021, the United States had only 3% of the world's packaging capacity here inside the United States, 3%. Now, let's focus on the good side of the story. The United States is very strong in research and development and talent, and we have the CHIPS Act. We can leverage these strengths to redouble our efforts toward advanced packaging and leap ahead of existing advanced packaging capabilities to establish the world's most innovative approaches to improve semiconductor performance and reliability and yield and cost. Now, we envision bringing together chip designers, scientists, engineers, and many, many other experts to develop new materials, methods, measurements, tools, and equipment in the United States, and then deploy these to American manufacturers. To achieve this, our efforts will extend along the path from innovation to production, from lab to fab. Now, to help realize this vision, I am very pleased to announce that Chips for America is committing approximately $3 billion in funding through the National Advanced Packaging Manufacturing Program across 6 new priority development areas. We will also invest in an advanced packaging piloting facility that will help these advances from these areas be validated and then transitioned for large-scale U.S. manufacturing. And we will invest in workforce training programs to support a robust domestic advanced packaging ecosystem. Thank you. So the 6 areas of investment, let me go through those and tell you what they are. They include technology investments in materials and substrates, in equipment, tools, and processes, in power delivery and thermal management, and photonics and connectors. And they will also include investments in co-design and finally in chiplets. And all of these together will improve performance and reliability, yield, and cost in advanced packaging. And the advanced packaging piloting facility that we will create will provide a place to test the new equipment and the new processes and the new methods, and then prepare us for scale-up and manufacturing, because ultimately we want to manufacture here in the United States. So success means validating development efforts as well as demonstrating the technology integration and tech transfer that is essential to achieving commercial scale advanced packaging here in the U.S. The piloting facility will also allow for hands-on workforce development. So this investment in R&D through the National Advanced Packaging Manufacturing Program, coupled with the Chips for America manufacturing incentives to establish high-volume advanced packaging facilities, can help us improve performance and reliability and yield and cost for major market growth major growth markets of semiconductors. Now, within a decade, we envision a vibrant, self-sustaining, profitable, high-volume, onshore packaging industry where advanced node chips manufactured in the United States undergo advanced packaging in the United States. And more details are available in a paper we just released that's available at chips.gov. And we anticipate announcing that the NAPMP, the National Advanced Packaging Manufacturing Program's first funding opportunity, will be addressing materials and substrates for advanced packaging, and that will be released in early 2024. Now, earlier I mentioned that institutions like Morgan State are critical to achieving this vision. Other educational institutions and training programs are also gearing up to meet the needs of the reinvigorated American semiconductor industry. Since the package of the CHIPS and Science Act in August 2022, at least 50 community colleges across 17 states have announced new or expanded programming to support opportunities in the semiconductor industry. And U.S. students are demonstrating increasing interest in growing semiconductor roles. Data from the job platform Handshake shows that student applications to full-time jobs posted by semiconductor companies were up 79% in 22 and 23, compared to just 19% for other industries. Applications from core tech majors and the talent pool of this industry that we need to fill the most jobs shortages increased by 168%. Internship applications followed a similar trend. So we're starting to really see the energy around the semiconductor industry. But we cannot rest, because just as the space race inspired a generation of physicists and engineers, including me, we must inspire young people and career changers to make the microelectronics upon which our economy and our security rely. Growth in the semiconductor sector means hundreds of thousands of good job opportunities that can lift whole communities and even entire regions. The state of Maryland recognized this with funding for Morgan State, which had the foresight to seek backing for a microelectronics program. But it is incumbent upon all of us in education, government, and industry to attract people to those jobs, eliminate the barriers that people from completing training programs and entering the workforce, and pay good wages and provide pathways to upward mobility so that we can retain those valued workers. Now, for CHIPS to succeed, these opportunities must be open to everyone. Inclusion is a core value of CHIPS for America. Inclusion is just a win-win-win. Making the economy work for all citizens by expanding access to good jobs is the right thing to do. That's a win for America. We also know that work groups with more diversity are more creative and more effective, and that's just a win for employers and research groups, and for American innovation and entrepreneurship. And we know that to muster all of the people needed to staff the semiconductor sector, we must attract more people from underserved and underrepresented communities, including women, people of color, veterans, people with disabilities, and rural populations, with education and training programs and wraparound services to support the most vulnerable populations. And that, if we're successful, is a win for everyone. The CHIPS Manufacturing Incentives Program has a clearly stated goal of increasing educational and workplace diversity, equity, and inclusion. We provide applicants with guidance on seeking partners for recruitment, particularly among underserved groups, and forming partnerships with educational and training organizations that can prepare people to work in the semiconductor sector. Inclusion is also a clear priority in the CHIPS R&D arm. The CHIPS R&D programs are committed to training the next generation of technical experts and researchers that represent the great diversity of America and that have the skills and the knowledge to advance semiconductor science and the entire sector. The CHIPS packaging program and other programs and facilities like the National Semiconductor Technology Center, we call that the NSTC, will help students from underserved communities explore careers in semiconductors and related fields. Trainees will have access to cutting-edge tools, processes, and materials and opportunities like postdoctoral fellowships and other fellowships. We anticipate that the NSTC will fund research and development and training programs at HBCUs and minority-serving institutions, as well as host researchers for technical exchanges. In addition, the CHIPS R&D programs will help minority-owned startups advance prototyping and design tools. So since we are celebrating the announcement today from CHIPS R&D, I want to introduce the director of the CHIPS Research and Development Office, Laura Weiss. Dr. Laura Weiss, will you please stand up? Laura joined CHIPS from Penn State, where she was Senior Vice President for Research. She also served at Georgia Tech, most recently as Senior Vice President and Director of the Georgia Tech Research Institute. Laura shares my commitment to diversity in STEM, and along with all other CHIPS for America staff members, will help to ensure that CHIPS for America is truly for all Americans. So thank you for your attention today, and I'll now take any questions that you have.
I don't need a mic out.
Yeah. Okay, I'll repeat it.
What's a chiplet?
Oh, a chiplet. A chiplet is a smaller chip that with a discrete functionality that when tied together with other chips or put together in a package with other smaller chips creates something with even greater functionality. And they're very important, and so we intend to fund out the chipless ecosystem in the United States very intentionally. It really is a place where we can make great gains in semiconductor electronics in terms of performance, speed, and functionality.
Thank you, ma'am. Oscar Barton Jr., Dean of the Mitchell School of Engineering here at Morgan State. As we consider jobs of the future, we have to consider how we prepare those students for those jobs of the future. Maybe you can make some suggestions of how we can improve our curriculum here and universities nationwide to better prepare them for the jobs of the future in the CHIPS.
Well, thank you for that question. How can we better prepare people for the jobs of the future? I think it's really important as we're thinking about across all of our programs, how we work with industry to really understand what they need in terms of the students that are coming out of the programs. And so that's why in the Manufacturing Incentives Program, for instance, we ask as the company, if the company is seeking an award for building a fab in the United States, that they partner with training and educational institutes in the country to really set them on a path to be successful once these fabs are created and built. So I think and that's really on the CHIPS manufacturing incentive side of the program. In the CHIPS R&D program, we will have several new capabilities and places where we're bringing people together with industry and government and academia, where we can all learn from each other and understand what the needs are of that next generation industry. And I think that will really help design curriculum fit for the future. Thank you. Yes.
My name is Glenn. I'm the School of Education and Business Studies here at Morgan. Thank you. And I'm really pleased to hear the focus on diversity and inclusion as we think about the workforce of the future. I'm currently working with a multidisciplinary work group of the AAAS, and I have been relentless in advocating for a reach that goes beyond higher education and community college and into the K-12 system, because we know from the research that children's interest in STEM get dampened in about middle school, And I'm just wondering whether Chips for America has any thoughts about programming that goes beyond higher education, goes below higher education.
So I really appreciate that. That is obviously the subject of a lot of discussion, and I appreciate your perspective from the School of Education. It's something that's so important that we be able to reach out earlier and more deeply into all communities to try to nourish that interest and the excitement in STEM from an earlier age. We have talked about it. I don't know what that's going to look like in the future, but I will say that, in my remarks, we talked about the excitement that the space race brought even to children, right? And really created that desire to be a scientist in the future. And that's one of our goals with Chips for America. I really think it's creating such excitement. The conversation is really around semiconductors. I think younger and younger people are more and more aware of how vital these devices are to their lives. So we hope that holistically, the Chips for America program not only will create the excitement and interest earlier, but that we can develop programs where we can help support that. Thank you.
Well, thank
Yeah.
you so much for the exciting presentation. I'd like to get your view on where you think the junction, the nexus of semiconductors and biomedical devices is going to go, particularly with this new packaging initiative.
Oh, well, thank you. That lives in our dreams, right? So where is it going to go in terms of our support for biomedical devices? I will say that, the good part about making advanced logic and memory chips in the United States, along with the ability to package them in the United States, that brings up the subject of really co-design, where the design of the chip and the design of the package really start to blur and come together. What that does is that really increases our ability to do things that are beyond our imagination. And I think that will really increase and fuel new developments from as I said, AI to biotech to quantum. So where will that go in the future? I will say that's a lot of that is probably up to your students, but I think the excitement of really building out these capabilities for the United States lets us make great advances, especially in areas that are most important to our economy.
Hello. Thank you for your presentation.
Oh, yeah.
I just had a thought. I know there's several countries around the world that kind of lead this industry at the moment. How does the United States, or CHIPS in this case, how do you ensure that, one, we can catch up to the efficiency that other countries have with the whole process, and also ensuring that the United States will be the most innovative country when it comes to chip manufacturing and packaging? Like, how do we ensure that?
I totally appreciate that question. How do we ensure it? I think it's a good gamble to that the Congress and the President really, and this administration gave to us when they entrusted us with this $50 billion to bring back manufacturing to the United States and also to build out the R&D ecosystem. How do we ensure the success? I think it's really a two-pronged approach, right? One is to make the investments so that manufacturers will cement here in the U.S. But really that second part is building out the R&D ecosystem, because that, to me, is why they would stay, because you have this incredible virtuous cycle of great innovations happening that can really right away go into the manufacturing facility. And so that tie of R&D and manufacturing is so important, I think, to our future success. So both parts are critically important to ensure that we get there. But why do I think it's a good risk? Because we're a country of great innovators. And so once we can really start to cement manufacturing back in the U.S., the sky's the limit. Thank you.
Hi, Gabriella Waters. I'm at the Center for Equitable AI and Machine Learning Systems here at Morgan. One of the things that is of great concern to most Americans when I speak to them about AI is job displacement. Can you speak to a little bit of the concern that when most citizens hear the word AI, they think they're going to lose their job, and what kinds of mechanisms you have in place to sort of reassure the general public that this is not necessarily the avenue that's going to be taken?
NIST was also recently called out in an executive order on AI to lead a lot of efforts for the United States around the development of trustworthy AI or building trust in AI. And part of that is making sure that we can help people understand the responsible use of AI. And that includes AI that is secure, trusted, unbiased, right? And that it's not used inappropriately. And so part of NIST's work is to build up the capabilities for trustworthy AI in this country and responsible AI. We are partnering with the lead companies. We are partnering with innovators and small companies. We are partnering with the public interest groups, the private sector and public sector, really everybody who has an interest in AI, and that's really everybody now. So we welcome all voices, and I appreciate that question. Now, on the CHIPS R&D side, what we'd like to do, since the United States has developed the most advanced chips for AI, we want to make sure that we are able to continue that trajectory to develop the semiconductor chips that support a robust and responsible AI in this country.
I've been asked to work toward bringing this to a close, or we can go to Dr. Lacasio's next engagement. But I will just offer this tidbit. The young lady who asked the question is in contact with Elham about
Great.
our center collaborating with NIST in some of these endeavors.
That's great, because I was going to reach out to you and give you her name. So great. Thank you.
Okay, everyone. Thanks so much for coming. I guess Dr. Lacasio has to go talk to a reporter, and then she has another breakout. But she might have a few seconds for you all to come up and greet her before she makes her transition. But again, thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Senator Carter's office.